the story of the Alaska Highway, America's Glory Road. A lasting tribute to the United States Army, the Public Roads Administration, and the contractors whose skill, courage, and determination forged this vital link in the defense of our hemisphere. It's more than a highway. It's a symbol of international goodwill between the United States and Canada, between free people of similar principles and ideals who sacrificed individual interests for their common welfare in this great crisis. Thus, out of the flame and fury of Pearl Harbor and the Aleutians, was the Alaska Military Highway born, the lifeline of our northern empire, winding its way 1,600 miles from Dawson Creek to Fairbanks, Alaska, over a route selected because of military expediency, through a land as beautiful as it is treacherous, as unpredictable as it is violent. This was the road that could not be built, nature's impregnable stronghold that had defied man for centuries, that had defeated every previous attempt of conquest. But nature had not reckoned with the United States engineers. They too had never tasted defeat. The impossible was to them only a challenge. Crashing resolutely through dark, raw forests of jack pine, spruce, and poplar, the highway at points clings tenaciously to precipitous footholds on sheer rock. Involved the movement of earth in astronomical quantities, rock and clay, gravel, muskeg, and prairie sod, through frozen wastes of uncharted wilderness where dog teams were the only means of travel, across treacherous muskeg and bottomless swamps that tried the skill and ingenuity of men and machines, across more than 200 streams and rivers that changed into raging torrents of destruction and devastation in protest to the steel harness of man, over ancient glacial beds, now dry, now wet, now frozen, as the streams tumbled down from the mountain tops and converted roads into riverbeds. Construction crews fought mosquitoes, cold, rain, mud, snow, and even hunger, living under extremely primitive conditions in nissen huts, tents, or shacks, until a tote road was bulldozed, blasted, hewn, and shoveled through to Fairbanks. In the clay and rocks, bogs, and ice of the Arctic, a true engineering epic has been proudly written. Actually, the Alaska Highway starts at Edmonton, a large modern city as well as a thriving trading and business center of Western Canada. Heading north out of Edmonton to Dawson Creek, there already existed a crude road which was later improved and incorporated into the Alaska Highway system. Stretching for some miles through the lush wheat fields of the Peace River Valley, this road played an important part in carrying supplies to Dawson Creek, the actual starting point for construction of the Alaska Highway. Here, the United States engineers assembled their huge stores of machines and supplies and set up headquarters. Dawson Creek, once a small trading town, found itself the focal point of world attention as the nerve center of the greatest undertaking of the war. Tractors and guts built the highway, said a hard-bitten colonel of the engineers, and it was men and machines all the way, working from the crack of dawn to move the millions of yards of earth required. Huge fleets of these Alice Chalmers tractors, some operated by the United States engineers, others by some of the 54 contractors on the job, were part of the thousands of items of equipment rushed into Canada for the construction of the highway and the many military airports. The Army used 7 regiments of engineer troops, 3 of them Negro, as the spearhead of an attack at 6 different points. Following close behind came 54 contractors, including 13 Canadian firms, working under the supervision of 4 managing contractors responsible to the Public Roads Administration. Working far from sources of supply, over precarious supply routes, the Pioneer Road was bulldozed through in 7 months, despite all obstacles. Through the Peace River Valley, from Dawson Creek north to Fort St. John, a distance of 52 miles, there already existed a British provincial highway. This was partly relocated and improved to Public Roads Administration standards by Canadian contractors into an excellent stretch of highway winding through one of the most fertile sections of Canada, the Peace River Valley, famous as an agricultural area largely because of the mighty Peace River. At first, crossing the Peace River was a hazardous undertaking. Now this modern suspension bridge, 2,130 feet in length, provides a 24-foot roadway for the huge volume of traffic flowing north through this peaceful valley, Alaska bound. Near Fort St. John and Fort Nelson, the highway winds through birch forests of unmatched beauty, many sections of which have never been traversed by man. Straight ahead plunges the highway, following in the wake of powerful tractor bulldozers blazing the trail. Virgin timber gives way before the mighty impact of thousands of such steel monsters at work all along the 1,600 miles of highway under construction. Army engineers took the direct route wherever possible, trusting to the skill, ingenuity, and machines of the construction crews that followed to overcome nature's obstacles. Later, when necessary or desirable, the road was relocated, widened, and straightened to meet traffic conditions. In most instances, rock was avoided, but in some stretches, it presented a formidable barrier, necessitating blasting and thousands of man-hours of labor to carve a mountain ledge. Here, on one of the deepest cuts, huge power shovels, rock drills, and dynamite were the keys to victory over one of nature's strongest barriers. Wherever possible, the mountains were avoided. As a result, in some sections, the road speeds merrily along, in valleys, and through mountain passes of striking beauty. Through rock-crested mountains, lifting their crowns thousands of feet into the clouds, the broad ribbon of dirt and gravel races northward, now skirting the foothills, now plunging straight through the rugged mountains and heavy timber. More than 200 roaring streams, as treacherous as they are beautiful, were crossed. First with temporary wooden bridges, later with permanent steel structures. Fighting ice, thaw, and floods, the bridges were a tremendous construction problem. Timber for use in the construction of bridges, homes, piling, and telephone poles had to be cut by hand, and in some cases, hauled 60 miles to points of use. Special crews of lumberjacks were selected for this task. Portable sawmills were set up by the Engineer Corps to cut the timber into rough boards and planks for construction purposes. As the highway moves ever northward, it soon skirts Lake Muncho, one of the many cold, clear blue lakes which abound in this region. Interesting signposts along the way, such as this one near Watson Lake, are indicative of the great distances involved. Trading and Hudson's Bay are almost synonymous in this North Country, with trading posts of this type sprinkled along the route to supply the miners and trappers, and now construction crews. Farther north, framed in golden fall foliage, is Lake Teslin, its cold, crystal clear waters reflecting the sky and the magnificent shoreline. Nestled among the mountain peaks, Lake Teslin adds a charming touch of nature to an already beautiful landscape. The Teslin Indian tribe has always made its home in this region, living in Indian villages. Their principal means of livelihood are hunting, fishing, and trapping, at which they are among the most adept on the continent. After crossing Nisutlan Bay on a 2,000-foot trestle, the road continues northwestward along Teslin Lake, situated in a low divide between the Mackenzie and the Yukon drainage area. Nearing Whitehorse, the highway continues northward into the famous Yukon Territory, a land of great beauty, rich in natural resources not yet fully developed. Lying in a peaceful green valley, hemmed in by formidable mountains, lies the picturesque river town of Whitehorse, most famous city of the North Country, and old stamping ground of dangerous Dan McGrew, Sam McGee, and Yukon Jake. Whitehorse is still a lusty Western-style town, destined to assume even greater importance in the future of the Yukon. Leaving Whitehorse at the little Indian village of Klewane, 147 miles west of Whitehorse, the road skirts beautiful Lake Klewane, 45 miles long, nestling in the foothills of the lofty St. Elias range of mountains. Lake Klewane and the surrounding country is unrivaled for scenic beauty anywhere on the North American continent. The lofty snow-capped mountain ranges and winding river valley seem to enhance the blue, crystal-clear waters of the lake. Lake Klewane has assumed a position of historic importance because of an impressive ceremony held on an adjacent mountain known as Soldier Summit. Here, on November 20, 1942, 250 persons braved 15 degrees below zero weather to witness American and Canadian officials cut the red, white, and blue ribbon signifying the opening of the highway. Reflected mountain scenery in the crystal clear waters of lakes and rivers in this region combine to provide breathtaking scenery which will transform this territory into a tourist wonderland beyond comparison. Nor does the season affect nature's glorious beauty. For in fall, the full, rich colors of nature's palette are generously applied to the foliage and surrounding landscapes. The lofty, snow-tipped mountains, veiled in a soft blue haze, reach up into a deep blue sky filled with lazy white clouds that supply a beautiful background for the rich autumn reds and yellows and browns so skillfully blended into the fall foliage. Beautiful as it may be, construction must continue as bulldozers and scrapers rip up mountaintops where necessary to push the highway through on schedule. Working in high altitudes, far from fuel, repairs, and supplies, these mechanical monsters were the real backbone of the attack. They asked no favors and received none. Trees and rock, earth, ice, or muskeg never stopped them, or the hardy skinners who drove them relentlessly forward to Fairbanks. But frequently, the route dropped sharply from mountain crags through swampland, muskeg, tundra, and soft surface soil with frozen subsoil. Under such conditions, spruce trees were laboriously cut by manpower to serve as foundations for the road-building process known as corduroying. The trees were felled, partially trimmed, laid across the bog side by side, and covered over with gravel and earth. Then another layer was placed on top of the first layer and compacted. Many times, this mat of alternate layers of earth, gravel, trees, and brush reached a depth of 4 to 5 feet. The biggest difficulty here was to find sufficient unfrozen material. However, gravel was plentiful, and good progress was made by this method of construction through sections of the territory previously thought impassable. Joining the Richardson Highway, 88 miles from Fairbanks, the highway sweeps into Fairbanks, Alaska's Golden Heart, not so long ago known as the biggest log cabin town in the world. Today, hundreds of cabins still stand, but Fairbanks is a modern city with fine paved streets and concrete structures, comparing very favorably with many cities of equal size in the States. The Richardson Highway, leading south from Fairbanks, is a splendid monument to one of Alaska's early pioneers and tireless worker for better highways. Connecting the seaport town of Valdez with Fairbanks, the Richardson is one of the best and most strategic roads in Alaska and vital link with the Alaska Highway. Fringed with red fireweed, characteristic of this region, the Richardson Highway passes through some of the most scenic terrain in Alaska. Close by are some of the most famous glaciers on the continent, their icy fingers reaching down from the mountain tops to the valleys below, within reach of the ever-present red fireweed. The Richardson has been an important factor in the economic life of Alaska, being the chief link with Fairbanks and the interior regions of the Yukon through Valdez, a bustling coastal town lying at the feet of great mountain ranges. Valdez is one of the old gold camps and mining towns and served as an outfitting point to Fairbanks, Copper Center, and other interior regions. The other highway of importance in Alaska is the Glen Highway, linking the Richardson with the ocean port of Anchorage. Its importance is readily understandable since it serves the Matanuska Valley's rich agricultural area, the site of the much publicized Matanuska Project, which has been instrumental in providing a considerable portion of Alaska's vegetable and dairy requirements. The valley's land has been cleared of spruce, birch, and cottonwood to provide fine pasture lands, vegetable plots, and grain fields yielding unbelievable crops of oats, barley, wheat, rye, alfalfa, and vetch. The landscape in the valley resembles Wisconsin, with dairy farms visible at many points. Herds of Guernseys and Holsteins contribute much to the income of the farmers in the Matanuska Valley through dairy products. Potatoes are and will be a very important vegetable in Alaska, with Irish cobblers, early Ohio, Arctic seedling, and gold coin varieties yielding from 200 to 400 bushels per acre. Alaska is also a potentially prolific producer of vegetables, with giant stalks of celery on the market in Fairbanks earlier than in Boston. The intense long hours of sunlight produce vegetables of gigantic proportions. Parsnips, beets, carrots, peas, cress, onions, and spinach, all hardy vegetables flourish luxuriantly, from turnips at 15 tons to the acre to thick, hardy rhubarb. In addition, fruits and berries such as peaches and pears, plums, cherries, raspberries, and strawberries have all been raised with success in regions of Alaska. The agriculture of Alaska holds out great hope and is certain to rival in productivity the other natural resources of this great country. Terminus of the Glen Highway is the famous city of Anchorage. Anchorage, like other Alaskan cities, has expanded rapidly with the influx of workers and military personnel, and very likely will emerge one of the leading cities of the far north. Good highways mean much to a country, and as the future of Alaska unfolds, its highways will be an important factor in its future prosperity and development. Together with air transport and the Alaska Highway, a new day is dawning for this Arctic empire. Alaska will then truly represent the pot of gold at the rainbow's end. No longer will Alaska be a remote, isolated island, but the rich, thriving industrial and agricultural country that its hardy pioneers envisioned and fought for.